Break's over. Hey there, this is your pal Pallie, and welcome back to Overrated. This is episode number 10. Woo, milestone. And today we're going to be talking about raid breaks and getting tired and all that other fun jazz. So, let's get into it. But first, reached a little milestone with 10 episodes. I want to thank everyone who's actually supported this. Agathon for getting me into this, Laura into getting me to doing this whole video thing in the beginning, tankspot.com for putting them up, blizzmaster.com for also putting them up. So thank you. 10 episodes, 10 more to come. Let's hope, as long as it's still interesting, huh? So today's episode is talking about raid breaks, and I don't mean taking a break from raiding, because that's like burnout, and we talked a little bit about that before. But I'm talking about actually taking your breaks in a raid. I've been through many different raids. I've been involved in many raids and pug raids and ran a lot of raids of my own. And one thing that varied a lot was regularly scheduled breaks. And from 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 15 minutes, all these kind of different things. And first off, let's talk about why a break is necessary. Okay, so you got 10 people in your raid, 25 people in your raid. There is a high likelihood that someone in that group needs to do something. Needs to go to the bathroom, needs to get their kid a sippy cup, needs to go see what that cat is doing. Really, you always want to see what the cat's doing, so that's just going to happen a lot. Whatever the reason, people need to take a break from the computer to go do something else. And it is fairly disruptive to your raid if that happens like constantly throughout it. So you wipe on pull and someone's like, "I'll be right back, 1 minute. I'll be right back." Crap. So you wait for them. Someone else decides, well, if they're gone, I'll be 1 minute too. Just hang on. And then it cascades from there. So generally, what most organized raids do is they try to schedule a break and say, we start raid at 7, we're going to take a 5 minute around 8 o'clock and then around 9 o'clock or something like that. Or maybe we're going to take a longer break. When we get to 8:20, we're going to take a 10-minute break and come back and start up at 8:30. So that's generally what raids do, and that's about average. People take a 5-minute break every hour or a longer break every couple hours. Now, again, this is going to depend on your raid time and whatnot, and we'll get into that a little bit, but that's the basics. So why do you need that break? Well, first off, people need to go do stuff. But one of the key things that's sort of been identified through just lots of different studies, I'm not going to link stuff, but it's just a natural thing. If you find yourself sitting in one place, even if you're engaged, I see you're clicking stuff, you're doing stuff, even if you're engaged, your whole body is just sitting there for the most part. At the very least, your legs are, unless you're like a nervous type who's like, hopping around, bouncing around, whatever. Unless you're that type, your body is generally at rest. Now, if you stay that way long enough, your body's going to be like, hey, I haven't moved for a while. Why don't I just shut down? Why don't I just do that? And you start to feel tired. It could be 3 in the afternoon, you had a great night's sleep the night before, but the natural tendency for your body is to just shut it down. So, how do we counteract that? Well, breaks are one thing, and, for the raids along the way, the raids that I've been the leader of for a while, I try to tell people, especially like with a 10-minute break, get up. Actually go do something. Even if you like supplied and stocked yourself for 4-hour, 5-hour raid where you got the drink right here, you got the snacks, and you all this, and get up. Doesn't matter. Go do something. Go change the laundry. Go pet a cat. Sorry, back to cats. But just go do something, because at the very least, the act of getting up and doing something makes your body think, oh, it's not time to go sleep yet. Okay, cool. Then your body doesn't shut down, then you're more attentive. I mean, I've seen this many times in raids that are longer than, 3 hours or the 4-hour kind of average. That last hour, many different people seem to be less attentive in that last bit of the raid. And it's usually due to factors like this, where your body's shutting down. So, get up. Go do something. Whether it's walking from one end of the house to the other or something like that. Whatever. So that's one key point of breaks that I want raid leaders to stress is, whatever the break is, get up. 2, how much time and how often? Let's talk about how often first. If you have a raid, let's go through the typical raid hours. There's 3 hours, 4 hours, and even 5 hours is a typical time. I'm not going to talk like top 1% type guilds that, raid all day and everything. They got a whole other set of rules and a whole other set of ways that they battle, fatigue and battle all that kind of shut down body stuff. So we're not talking that. We're talking, raids that are regularly scheduled. They got 3 hours, they got 4 hours, they got whatever. So, 3-hour raid. I see 2 possibilities. One is the one I mentioned before. 5-minute break every hour, or maybe a 10, 15-minute break at the midpoint, at an hour and a half. Again, it depends on the night. Maybe the night is... Actually, hold on. Let me back myself up. I'm not going to go into that just yet, but we will talk about whether it's progression, sort of hardcore night, or whether it's a farm time night. So, we'll talk that later. But 3-hour raid, those are generally the times. 4-hour raid. Again, you can do the 5 minutes every hour, or like a 10-minute every 2 hours, something like that. 5-hour raid, which is what I had been involved in for quite a while. We've been doing like 4 hours, 4.5 hours-ish here lately. But anywho, if you're going 5 hours, you probably want to take some fairly significant, maybe the first couple hours, first 2 hours, 2.5 hours, maybe you're okay. Like we would start at like 8 o'clock and we'd be like blowing through farm content or something like that. And we would stop at like 9:45, even 10 o'clock, and then take a significant break. Beyond that, it seemed like it felt necessary for us to take a 5 or even a 10 every hour after that, because, it'd get to 11 o'clock, people were like, oh, I didn't go to the bathroom on the last time. Can I go now? Yeah, let's take our break now. So if you get into the 5-hour longer raid, maybe you can start out strong, but start taking some more frequent breaks as you go along. So that's raid times. Now, getting back to sort of the difficulty of the night, that could be a factor in your decision as a raid leader as to break times. Because progression night, where you're wiping over and over, you're going same thing, 10 pulls, 12 pulls, whatever, you might want to call the break on, say, a really frustrating wipe, like, man, we just wiped because this happened, and that's happened like twice in a row now. Okay, people are getting unfocused. It's been about an hour. So, don't take don't 30 minutes and break or something like that, but it's been about an hour, time for a break, and that gets everyone the ability to think over what's happening and go, ah, man, I screwed that up again. All right, I'm gonna go get a drink, pet the cat, and then I'm gonna come back to this and be like, all right, cool, I got this. No more screwing up, kiting these ads, or no more, oh, I forgot about that interrupt or something. So at least on progression nights where you're having that, it's a feel thing in some senses. But on progression nights, you probably, in general, are going to be wanting to take more frequent breaks. But you also want to take some time to step back and say, what's happening? Why are we doing, are we noticing some patterns here? Do we got this, the tank dying at this point again? Okay, we probably need to think about this, talk in officer chat, talk in your voice comms, whatever, and go over a solution for it. So, breaks are a good time for that too, although, as a raid leader, you should also actually get up and take that break too. So, if you need to have some time to get up as a raid leader, plus do some strategizing, maybe that's the call for a 10-minute, more significant break. Get everyone out of it for a little while, get yourself out of it for a little while, and then come back and have that few-minute discussion with people about, we're going to do this different next. So, on a farm night, you may want to do less frequent breaks. You may want to keep the groove of the raid going because you've got, Siege of Orgrimmar. Maybe your goal is by the first break time, which might not be an exact time, you want to break right after you get done with, Shaw of Pride or something. That's your first mark. Like, all right, after Shaw of Pride, guys, we're going to take a break and come back, kill the next 4 in the next hour, and kill whatever, work up to whatever you got. So that may be a more significant mark on a farm night where you want to get to a specific target by a specific time. So, that's another way to skin the cat, so to speak. But farm nights are really, you want to keep, it's that feel thing. You want to keep the progression going, and you want to get back to where you're progressing quickly. You want to keep people in the groove, but you also want to give people those breaks so that you don't start having a failing farm night where you are wiping on, oh my god, why did we just wipe on this thing again? So, a little careful feel there, but you could just default it back to your normal schedule. We got a 3-hour raid schedule. We're going to break right in the middle, 10 minutes, doesn't matter where we're at. If we just wiped to Galacross Heroic or something like that, who cares? It's 8:20, time to break, or 8, whatever time it might be. So, farm nights, maybe swing it based on how good you're doing, maybe swing it based on your schedule. So one of the last things I want to talk about with respect to breaks is the unscheduled break. Hang on, someone's at the door. Hang on, I just got this phone call, a really important phone call that I got. That happens, and that happens quite frequently on all levels of rating, and there's a couple things to talk about with respect to those unscheduled breaks. One is, the number one thing to tell your raiders is to be like, tell me how long it's going to be. Are you going to be 1 minute? Are you going to be 5 minutes? Is this something, before they head out to that unscheduled, unless oh crap, something just fell on my kid, I gotta go, guys, I'll be back as soon as I can. If it's a non-emergency kind of thing, where they're like, oh, the phone just rang, you'd be like, oh, do you think it's going to be a couple minutes or longer than that? If they can just give you a quick answer oh, this will just be 1 minute. Or, Noelle, this is my mom, and, I got to talk to her about something. Whatever. If they can give you that quick judgment on, it's going to be 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Then you can turn it into okay, we're going to take our break now. Maybe it's a little early. Maybe, you got your 7 to 10 raid, 3-hour raid, and that unscheduled thing happens and you were usually scheduling a 10-minute break in the middle, but this unscheduled thing happened at like 8 o'clock, 1 hour in. Be like, all right, guys, we're going to take a 10-minute now so we can let this happen, and then we'll get back into it. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll take a smaller break later or something like that. So turn the unscheduled into, maybe you're scheduled if it's close. But the biggest thing is raiders just need to say, how long is this going to happen? And depending on your raid structure, too, if it's like you're a 10-man guild and you don't have much of a bench, or 10 or 25, doesn't matter. You don't have much of a bench, you don't have someone like waiting outside the instance, ready to hop right in here, then you have to wait, and you probably should turn it into that. But if you're like really hardcore on, we're pushing on this boss and we don't want to accept, we don't want to wait for whatever that is that just happened, swap them in. Swap someone in, go to it. I mean, for the most part, that's fairly easy to do with the DPS. Depending on your guild, you probably have a DPS waiting. Maybe it's depending on, again, the guild. Maybe it's not great if it's a healer, and probably fairly tough to do if it's the tank that has something going on. Because you only have, 2 of those guys or gals, and they're usually fairly involved in the tactics. So you probably don't want, if it's just going to be like 5 minutes, you probably don't want to swap someone out just like that. Unless you've got like a melee in there who's ready, who's watched all the tanking stuff and been like, oh yeah, I can handle that. Let him go do his thing, bring in someone else. Boom, off you go. And it could be used as something that is a more prohibitive type deal, where you have someone who's taking a frequent break at the same time or close to the same time. You just be like, hey, look, we're going to swap someone in because we can't have these unscheduled things happening often. Again, totally dependent on how casual, hardcore, whatever you want to call it, how hardcore you are, I suppose. But it could just be, we'll wait the 5 minutes, or no, look, man, we can't have this happen. Off we go. All up to the raid leader, of course. So, that is a nice little discussion about raid breaks, and it's funny how I come up with these ideas, because I'm actually fairly tired. I don't know if you can tell from my eyes or anything, but I'm fairly tired just in general, and I was like, I need a topic for tonight. Hey, how about being tired? Oh, being tired in a raid. Yay! There it is. So, just a little meta discussion for you there, sorry. Anywho, that's it for today. I will probably have some interesting stuff coming up in the next few weeks. Spoilers. Yeah. But I should have an achievement guide part 2. I should record some of that stuff tonight, I hope. I need some of the footage back from it, unfortunately, from that laptop crash. So achievement guide part 2 for Siege coming up. Maybe I get part 3 out first, which would be weird, but whatever. That's what I've got to do, maybe. So that should be coming out soon. Should have some more raid guides, hopefully, soonish. And maybe we'll hear some more about Warlords coming up soon. Seems like the PTR patch 5.4.7 is getting down to the end of like little tweaks and stuff going on, so maybe we'll see that soon, which means the end of the PvP season, which means maybe Warlords beta after that. So stay tuned. Hoping for a lot of that fun stuff coming up. And this has been Overrated, episode number 10. And we were talking about raid breaks. And now it's time for me to take a break and a siesta. And have a good one, guys.